So when it comes to many franchises that, you know, they're historically bad, you got to think about it in football terms. It's practically like the Buffalo Bills. Are they historically bad? Well, they've been to four Super Bowls, but not won any of them. But at least they make the Super Bowls, unlike Cleveland, Detroit, Jacksonville, and Houston. Those guys have not made a Super Bowl at all. Well, the New Orleans Saints sucked for a while. Yeah, for a while. And then now they're very decent and all that. People respect them a lot. So are the Seahawks being respected and all that. But what if I told you there was this massive franchise from the early days of the NFL, the 1920s NFL, that has had a championship drought unlike no other? Their last championship was in 1948, way before the Super Bowl era, and even longer than Cleveland and Detroit, or even Buffalo for that matter. That we're talking about the Cardinals franchise, and we're going to talk about the factors of them and a golden 1998 season that almost saw them pull off the unexpected. So get ready. I said, are you ready? Are you ready for some Cutter What If NFL football? A weekend invasion! Yeah, it's Cutter talking to you live. We got the hits and the misses. So come join me for all the fun. All the rowdy friends come in. It's the weekend, y'all. Are you ready? Yeah, let's do this, baby. Yes. So the Cardinals franchise is one of the oldest franchises in the NFL to date. I mean, they predate many NFL teams and, of course, the AFC and AAFC teams. But the Cardinals franchise started off life in Chicago in 1920. I know I kind of covered this when I talked about the St. Louis iteration of the Cardinals in 1975. But the fact of the matter is that the Arizona Cardinals had returns in Chicago and they played at Wrigley Field and Comiskey. Comiskey practically because the Bears played at Wrigley Field. It was weird seeing a baseball stadium used for football. But such is life back then. The Chicago Cardinals had the great Ernie Nevers on their team, and he scored 6 touchdowns in one game, which was a benchmark. It's still the record to this day, of course. It's been tied several times. Chicago was a pretty good football town. The Bears were doing good, and then the Cardinals would do just as good. In 1948, they shocked the Philadelphia Eagles to win the NFL championship. The year after losing the NFL championship in a blinding snowstorm in Philadelphia. So practically, the Cardinals were a decent team, but by the 50s, they were falling flat at the box office and on the field. So, sensing that Chicago can't carry two NFL teams, the Bidwell family sold the team to St. Louis Interest. They were the Cardinals for a while. I won't get too much into St. Louis because, I did a video on their time. But the fact of the matter is that the St. Louis Cardinals were decent in the 70s, winning a couple of division titles and just couldn't win a playoff game for the life of them. Not one. 1984, they had a chance to make the playoffs on the final day. All they needed was a last second field goal to win the division. Didn't happen. Things were bad, and then the Bidwell family got wooed by the city of Phoenix because Phoenix was so close to getting the Colts from Baltimore before they went to Indy. Phoenix wanted a football team in the worst way possible. And guess what? Phoenix has got the team. The Phoenix Cardinals are your Super Bowl bound team. But anyway, Arizona had their team. So they were the Phoenix Cardinals. And then in 1994, to make himself more enduring to the state of Arizona, they called themselves the Arizona Cardinals. Unfortunately, the Cardinals just couldn't get over the hump and all that. But a magical 2009 season, 2008-09 season was there. They beat, I can't remember, that was the year they beat the Packers in the wild card round. Well, I know they beat the Packers in the wild card round, 51-45, one of the highest scoring postseason games in history, winning it in overtime. And I know that the Cardinals beat the Packers in a 2016 playoff game in which Aaron Rodgers did throw a Hail Mary to tie the game, but in overtime, a shovel pass to Larry Fitzgerald got them down to the 5 yard line, and then Fitzgerald got the touchdown. The Cardinals have been decent. Unfortunately, they've had some quarterback carousel after Jake the Snake Plummer. Kurt Warner was brought in to try to stem the tide. Josh McCown, and even that UCLA quarterback. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I would say Drew Thorne, but that can't be right. Josh Rosen, that's it. So Josh Rosen was there, but Kyler Murray has been pretty good when he's healthy. So let's take a look at the 1998 Arizona Cardinals. So the Cardinals, this was the 100th season in Cardinals history, the 79th in the NFL, and the 11th in Arizona. The club posted its first winning record since 1984 with this 1998 season. Was in the postseason for the first time since 1982, although that was a strike shortened season. It was the first time they made the playoffs as a franchise in a non strike shortened season since 1975, and actually won their first postseason game since 1947. Of course, I lied accidentally that the Cardinals won in 48, but they was 47 when they won. So the Cardinals finally made the playoffs after being in Arizona. All of that. So anyway, the Cardinals fell pretty much out of contention. They were 9-7 and somehow went to the Super Bowl in that 08-09 season. Football Outsider says that the 98 Cardinals were the third worst team behind the 04 Rams and 2010 Seahawks to qualify for the NFL playoffs, calculating ratings and all that. But the joke was on them because all three of those teams actually won their first playoff games. Anyway, the Cardinals would return to St. Louis for the first time since leaving the city in 1987. The Cardinals were in the NFC East for a while, which was shocking because, they were in the NFC East and Atlanta was in the NFC West. Should have been a switcheroo. The Cardinals would be realigned to the NFC West. In the 98 NFL draft, the Cardinals were poor and took third overall and got Andre Wadsworth. Decent guy when he was healthy. Corey Chavis went to the second round from Vanderbilt, good defensive back and all that. Anthony Clement was decent. Michael Pittman would be a good running back for the Cardinals. But their biggest move was in the 7th round, 226 overall, from Arizona State. Probably as a favor to the Sun Devils fans because, Arizona State and Arizona kind of share. The Cardinals shared the stadium. Pat freaking Tillman. Can you believe that Pat Tillman was a 7th round pick from Arizona State? So anyway, Jake Plummer was the starting quarterback. Dave Brown, the veteran, would be your backup. Andy Clement actually had to go on IR. Joe Nendy, the kicker, was on IR. So they had to bring in Chris Jackie, former Packers icon. Eric Swan, defensive tackle, was on IR. What would have happened if he was healthy? Running backs, Mario Bates, Larry Sanders, Eric Metcalf, the great returner, Adrian Morrell, Michael Pittman, a decent quintet. Wide receivers, Rob Moore and Frank Sanders were the big boys. Chris Getney would be your tight end. Offensive line, Lomas Brown, Jerome Daniels, uh, Aaron Graham, Lester Holmes. Defensive lineman, Simeon Rice, Andre Wadsworth, Bernard Wilson. Linebackers, Mark Maddox, Ronald McKinnon, Jameer Miller, Patrick Sapp. Defensive backs of note, Corey Chavis, Ty Howard, Kwame Lassiter, Pat Tillman, Arias Williams. Chris Jackie, the kicker, Scott Fleur, the punter. And 9-7. They had to win their last 3 games to make the playoffs. They beat the Eagles in Philly in overtime. They beat the Saints at home, and then in front of a CBS crew, Don Criqui and company. They faced the Chargers back when there would be no divisional matchups on the final day of the season. Don Criqui with Beasley Reese. Remember him? Anyway, the Cardinals needed a win to get to the playoffs. Morrell got a touchdown run. It was a battle of field goals until Ryan Falwell, the future BC Lion, got a touchdown catch from Craig Willihan. This was the season in which Ryan Leaf was supposed to help the Chargers out, but he got injured and became a pain in the ass. So it was 13-13, and Chris Jackie would go from 52 yards and make a massive field goal through the uprights. Cardinals were in the playoffs, and that's when you see a rare occurrence in the NFL. Fans on the field to celebrate a team's win. You see that all the time in the NCAA, but when it comes to NFL, basically no. The Cardinals did win 9 games. They snuck out of the Giants for the chance to win the playoff berth. The Cowboys were the 3 seed and the divisional winner. Arizona would have to bump into Dallas, 6 versus 3. Dallas was the weaker of the 3 division winners, which meant they would have to go play at home in the wild card. Mike Patrick, Joe Theismann, Paul McGuire would be doing the game, in which the Cardinals were supposed to get their butts handed to them by the Cowboys because it's Dallas and Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith. And I don't know if Mike Irvin was still playing. I think he wasn't. Nevertheless, the Cowboys were supposed to stomp all over them. But Plummer threw 2 touchdowns to Adrian Morrell and Larry Sanders, and then Aikman did Billy Davis. But that was all. The Cardinals shocked everyone, winning 20-7. And for the first time in 5 decades, the Cardinals franchise would win a playoff game. Can you imagine going 50 plus years without winning a playoff game? I know in Leafland, it's been 57 years at the time of this taping since they won the Stanley Cup. But at least they've won playoff rounds. They would have to face the 1 seed Minnesota Vikings. That's the worst seed possible. Several men were there, and the Vikings would show no mercy, up 24-7 after 1/2. Although Mario Bates did score a touchdown for the Cardinals, in the end, it was not meant to be for the Cardinals. As the Vikings went 41-21, and it looked like the Vikings were going to steamroll their way to the Super Bowl, but they fell to the Falcons. Everyone knows about Gary Anderson's wide left kick in a dome, no less, and the Falcons winning that game. So, what would happen if the Cardinals faced the Falcons in the round? If the Cardinals did pull the upset over Minnesota and all that. Anyhow, the Arizona Cardinals would face Atlanta. Yeah, they upset Minnesota. Atlanta 14-2. We leave Atlanta alone. And they would be hosting the game in their own stadium as the Cardinals. Would the Cardinals have a chance to upset the Falcons? The answer is probably not. After a scoreless first quarter, the second quarter at the Georgia Dome, the Cardinals did a 15-play, 90-yard drive. We saw a couple of third downs, but on second and goal at the 1, Plummer flips it to Rob Moore for a touchdown instead of running the ball in. They score the extra point, make it 7-0. And then Arizona gets a 12-play, 82-yard drive to kill the clock a bit. A couple of third down conversions, and then Plummer to Rob Moore for a touchdown to make it 14-0. However, the Falcons go down the field, and thanks to a Tony Martin play, they get the field goal down the middle, 14-3. In the third quarter, Arizona gets the ball first, a couple of punts, and then they go on an 8-play, 66-yard drive as Metcalf gets a pass in the end zone touchdown. And it was 21-3, so they're 1 quarter away from the improbable upset. In the fourth quarter, Atlanta, first play of the fourth quarter, Jamal Anderson gets a touchdown, makes it 21-10. Arizona punts, and then Atlanta on an 11-play, 66-yard drive takes it down to the 3, which Downs ran for a touchdown. Atlanta scores a touchdown. They go for 2, and thanks to Jamal Anderson getting the ball in, it was 21-18. The Cardinals had the ball, but Plummer makes a bad overthrow of Frank Sanders. Atlanta goes for a field goal and it's wide left, so the Cardinals have a chance to kill the clock. Unfortunately, Plummer gets picked off on 3rd and 8 at the 50 by Craig Sauer. And then Chandler gets a nice pass to Terrence Mathis for 32 yards. Then Martin, then Dwight on the other round. They got first and goal, Anderson touchdown, and the next point made 25-21. Cardinals needed a touchdown. Plummer did get a 32-yard pass to Rob Moore. Unfortunately, on 4th and 14, he couldn't do it. And the Cardinals fell to the Falcons. 25-21. It would have been amazing if Arizona pulled that out. But that fourth quarter comeback. All I did was say who would be the main guys in the lineup and all that. So yeah, 21-3 for Arizona, and they fumbled it. Jamal Anderson with a pair of touchdowns and a 2-point convert. On efficiency, Arizona 8 for 15, Atlanta 4 for 13, rushing 120 to 186. Atlanta had that. Passing yards 183, 139 for Arizona. And Jamal 102 yards. Yeah, Plummer 18 for 26, 194, 3 touchdowns and a pick. Chandler 7 for 13, 154. Yeah, that interception was costly to Craig Sauer because Atlanta went down the field for the winning points. Anderson made from 29, this from 58. But come on, it's 58 yards. So in essence, Arizona would not have gone to Super Bowl, and Atlanta would have won it as is. Anyway, I'm jumped. I'm gonna do